What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy Domuto. We are back with another video. Today we're watching What If Goku Found Broly Early finale. Yes, sir. Super God Broly versus Golden Cell. Okay. This story has been great. Shout out to Saiyan for this whole story. Great story. Let me know which story you want me to react to of his next. And we about to waste no time here. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Trying to get to 1,500 by the end of the year. Yeah, let's go.
Naturally for Broly, the next step is trying to evolve his God form, and he's been thinking. He could try and get that Super Saiyan Blue form that Goku and Vegeta have, but he's not too sure if he's going to be able to do so. His Super Saiyan form is different by default, and he has been thinking about combining Wrathful with it. That might be a little less risky. The concern before was that he wasn't going to be able to control any of his forms, but now he has such an amazing control on his godly powers, his Wrathful form, his full power form, that everything shouldn't be an issue. He should be able to combine something, shouldn't he? And he's been trying to do this. At first he starts with Wrathful, trying to combine that with the powers of a Super Saiyan God. But for some reason this isn't working, and he's not too sure why. It should work, he has full control over it, but the anger of that Wrathful form doesn't seem to mix with the calmness of a Super Saiyan God, which is weird because he's seen how it works with Super Saiyan. That's a form derived from rage. But this Wrathful form seems to just inherently conflict with this somehow. And it kind of makes sense to him when he considers that this was the root of all of his problems before. That unbridled rage is a great ape that was pent up inside of him. He did have to master that form first before going on to his other ones and trying to master those. So maybe it's something similar here. Maybe he shouldn't focus on that. Maybe he should just go to Super Saiyan. But will that work? If Wrathful doesn't work, is that going to even work for him? And will he even get Super Saiyan Blue? There's only one way to find out. Goku and Vegeta are kind of terrified of the result in case Broly does end up going berserk, but it shouldn't happen here. Beerus says he's calm enough as a god and has control over it, so it shouldn't really happen. And if it does, those two should be more than strong enough. Especially with the new power they've obtained. Since Broly's training with them, they kind of have a different focus on their power. Of course, Goku is still trying to follow Whis' trainings. But they get kind of sidetracked, especially Vegeta. With Broly there, they're kind of focused on raw power. Partially because that's working for Broly, and partially out of necessity just in case they need to stop Broly. Goku doesn't really like this approach, but he decides to go with it anyways just to see where his limits can go. He still does want to work on that thing that Whis is teaching, having his body move automatically. But the training that Vegeta's doing seems promising, and he wants to at least just try that out, considering that shouldn't be too hard. And together, the two of them are actually able to go beyond Super Saiyan Blue, getting an evolved version of it. They thought maybe they could just combine
they both
Super
get
Saiyan 2 with Super
evolution,
Saiyan God, but instead they just got this, an evolved Blue. And Goku really likes this. He's tried to use Blue Kaioken more, but this actually seems to work better. Blue Kaioken is strong, but it literally just tears his body apart, especially at such a high level like that. With this actually might be a better approach for him. And who knows what lies ahead.
Perfected Blue.
Well, the twirling of power lies ahead, especially after how impressed Zeno was with the Universe 6 tournament, mainly Universe 7. He wants to see them fight again. How about against all the other universes? Make it a survival game. Make it a test for the mortals. That could be perfect. So now they need a group of 10. And forming a team like this shouldn't be too hard. They have a ton of strong people with them after all. Goku, Vegeta, and Broly are the obvious picks, and then they go to Gohan and Piccolo on Earth, with Android 16 also being a favorite given how strong he is and how much he's been upgraded. That's pretty good so far, 6 people. Broly even suggests recruiting Paragus, but he actually declines. Paragus kind of gave up on fighting a long time ago. He has been trying to keep up with his training, but he's at that point now where he's already started to rapidly aging, and it is very noticeable. The 3 Saiyans have of course visited Earth from time to time, and they've seen this process happening. It happened so quickly, and Paragus is glad that they do want to recruit him. And just for old time's sake, he tries to show off Super Saiyan, but he can immediately tell he's way weaker than he was in his prime, even with a power like this. He's content as is, and he's glad that he's been chosen regardless, but he passes on the idea. He doesn't want to hold everyone back, especially Broly. And it's kind of a weird thing for him, seeing how much Broly has grown. Paragus has been on Earth for so long now. He's grown past his old spiteful self that he once was before, and while he can't fully atone for the sins of his past, he actually is somewhat of a better father to Broly, and this moment between them is a pretty good showcase of that. Paragus expresses a lot of pride in his son, and not in the sense that he's proud of him as a Saiyan warrior, but he's proud just to have him as a son and seeing how strong he's grown.
Right.
He trusts that even without him, the team will be fine, especially with Broly on their side. And this makes Broly very confident. And it's a bit sad to see Paragus in this state, especially with how old he is, but it also lets Broly reflect on how far Paragus has come, as a warrior and as a person. The old Paragus wouldn't have turned this down, and he would have tried to fight regardless, knowing that he was probably up against something that he couldn't beat. He probably wouldn't even show that same pride in Broly, or at least he'd show it in a different way, one that just benefits him. Goku picks up on this too, and he's really glad to see it. Tenshinhan, Krillin, and Roshi are also recruited. And as for the 10th member, they're gonna need somebody else. Well, what about Yamcha? I mean, they could recruit him. That could definitely work. And the idea of Frieza never comes up because they knew Frieza was revived, but they never knew how strong he was, and there's no reason to really bring him back. But there is one fighter that is surprisingly suggested by Gohan of all people. Gohan says they're probably not going to like this pick, but he promises them this will work out. He wants them to recruit Cell. He doesn't like Cell, and he doesn't fully trust Cell either. But he does know Cell is a strong warrior, and knowing his nature, this is something he would do. He would team up with them. It is a risk knowing that he could probably get the Super Dragon Balls and make a wish from them, but having someone that strong on their team, it makes their team that much stronger. Vegeta and Broly actually don't really like this idea. But two other people surprisingly support Gohan.
Goku.
One is Goku.
Piccolo.
He thinks this could work, and he probably would have even thought of the same thing. The other person that agrees with him is Piccolo, having actually fought Cell with Gohan. He says if Cell actually is an issue, then they could just beat him. They already did once, they could do it again, especially with all these other people here. They did it with just them on Earth. Actually, it was pretty much Gohan alone. And that reminds the other Saiyans. They never actually got to see Gohan's power in practice. They just saw it through Whis' staff. Here will actually be a good way to showcase it, and Broly's especially interested given his training with Gohan beforehand, and the similarities the two share. Beerus doesn't really like this idea, but he is actually interested to see how strong that Cell guy is. Whis momentarily departs, being able to find Cell, bringing him back to Earth, and Cell's glad to see everyone there, with some of the group pretty unsure about this. And Cell says he would like to join this tournament. Seems like a great test of his power, and it is kinda necessary for his survival after all. But there's one condition. If he joins their team, he wants Broly and Gohan to fight him, each individually. He's been looking to try this for a while, and he's been training on his own ever since he last saw Gohan. And they accept the condition. It doesn't seem too bad, and it's good to know beforehand that they're going to fight him, rather than Cell just ambushing them and trying to kill them, because that doesn't seem like the case here. He actually just wants to fight, just for the fun of it. And now, the actual tournament itself begins. But it seems Universe 7 is a little bit too prepared. Instead of the tournament being a struggle for them, it's actually kind of a competition between Universe 7. Once they realize how far above the other universes they are, they kind of know that they're going to win, which is great, but it's also an issue because Cell, he's there, and if he ends up winning, he gets his...
That's probably why I like the manga version, because they got them niggas up out of there. And probably because I already seen the anime version, and sometimes some of them niggas lasted way too long with Brienne, so it was cool. Like, some of them niggas was just fathered, you know what I'm saying? That fake ass superhero nigga that fought Vegeta, way too long. A bunch of niggas lasted way
Super
too
Dragon
long.
Balls. And that would be terrible. The other universes just watch on with disgust and awe. Universe 7 is facing them so effortlessly, and they're making a competition between themselves to see who can eliminate the most people, which means they basically go full power right from the start, which is good too because they still want to win anyways. Although it kind of annoys Cell because he wanted to test his power more, but these universes are kind of weak, and everyone else is competing against him. At least he'll get to fight Broly and Gohan later though. Gohan goes into his beast form right away, holding nothing back. Piccolo fights alongside him, going orange, assisting Gohan but letting him eliminate everybody that he tries to eliminate. That gives Gohan more eliminations. Goku and Vegeta do the same thing for Broly. And Broly's fighting in his god form, but at some point, he decides he can't hold back anymore. He needs to prevent Cell from getting the wish. And Cell watches on with glee as Broly powers up. An intense aura radiates around him. It completely shocks the other gods. And even the others on Universe 7 are pretty terrified. The humans especially. They can't even sense that power, but they can just feel the sheer pressure from it. It's insane. Broly's god form is surrounded by an aura that's kind of similar to Super Saiyan Blue, but then it mutates even more. It's greenish. Goku and Vegeta are surprised that he's already showing this form off, but it kind of makes sense especially with what they're doing. Broly tries his best to hold himself back, but even with that, just him transforming breaks off pretty much half the ring, completely disintegrating it. His hair grows a bit longer, almost looking like his hair in Super Saiyan, but this time it's more of a teal color. A hint of that wrathful form still in there, even though he couldn't truly harness that form alongside his god form. And another aspect of that begins showing too. He grows a tail. Even though his tail was cut off so long ago, when he transforms into this, it grows back. This form is the culmination of everything that he is. An extremely powerful Saiyan warrior and a godly figure. He doesn't even have a name for this form. This is what I'll call Legendary Super Saiyan God, or Super God Broly. Of course, not actually the Legendary Super Saiyan, but the name is very fitting for the reference. Pretty straightforward, and Broly didn't really want to name it something like Super Saiyan Teal. This is at least a little better. And with this form, he completely overpowers everyone in the ring. Even someone like Jiren, he's not going to stand a chance. And he basically just cleans house, with Universe 7 taking the win. Alright, maybe they didn't really need to Cell on the team, but they were going to encounter him eventually regardless. And now Cell is really interested. Seeing this power, he wants to fight Broly. And Gohan's shocked to hear this. Cell lost against him already with his beast form, and Gohan can immediately tell that Broly in whatever form this is, even with Gohan training too alongside people like Android 16 and Piccolo, he's not nearly on that level. And he's saying this as someone who can't even sense that type of ki. And Cell really thinks he could fight him, and Cell's pretty confident in it. He hasn't shown off his full power yet. He didn't want to use that in the tournament because he didn't really feel like he needed it. But against Broly, he definitely would. But they're going to need a better venue to fight. As for the wish with the Super Dragon Balls, Broly actually ends up getting it because once he powered up, he was able to eliminate so many people so quickly that he just got the MVP. And even though the tournament itself wasn't as interesting for Zeno, seeing Universe 7 again, especially that powerful, that really interested him, and so he's pretty happy. A wish is made to restore all the other universes, and that makes Zeno even happier. Following the tournament, we go back to Beerus' planet. Cell will fight Gohan eventually, but first he's going to test out his power against Broly, especially because Gohan's saying Broly's apparently even stronger than him right now. And Broly honestly can't believe it. Cell is really this obsessed with fighting. And Cell mentions they didn't really seem to be too surprised that he was perfect. Well, they say they already knew that. I mean, look who they're with after all. Whis could show them everything. They saw his fight with Gohan and Piccolo already, so they've known he's perfect, and they knew he'd eventually come back someday anyways. Cell tells Broly, don't hold back here. They should know he could regenerate after all, so don't be afraid about doing any damage to him if he really is that powerful. But Cell is that confident in his power, and he wants to see that super god form again. He wants to see how he matches up to it. Broly then feels a burst of energy around him, or something weird like that. Whis taps him with his staff, and he's surrounded by some weird force field. Whis tells him, this will allow him to breathe in space temporarily. Consider it a gift. It'll allow their battle to be much better. This was at the request of Lord Beerus, actually. He wanted them to go all out, not be limited by this planet. And if they did fight on this planet after all, it would make a pretty big mess. He stands next to Beerus, Goku, and Vegeta, with a bubble forming around them as they float up into space, following Broly and Cell as they float up.
Okay.
Cell assumes a fighting stance, and Broly does too, which is weird because he's out in the vacuum of space, and it's going to be kind of weird to fight out here, but he'll get used to it, even though he has no footing to have this stance. He can adapt, like he always does. The two clash. Goku and Vegeta watch with amazement. The energy generated from that clash alone. They haven't even transformed yet. Broly's still in his base. And Cell finds it kind of interesting. He tried to absorb some power from all those other warriors at the Tournament of Power, but he never actually got to do so. And he didn't really feel like it would be too beneficial anyways. He didn't know what their powers were, or how it would affect him. He's just going to use his own power here. Although that does have a downside. He hasn't absorbed anybody's power in a while. He has what he's always had before, and whatever he's trained for. He doesn't actually know how to sense any godly ki here, so he can't really sense Broly's power. But he says he doesn't really need that. And Broly asks if he's really sure. If so, they'll continue this fight. And Cell nods in agreement. Broly powers up, first going into Super Saiyan God. And Cell laughs. This is Super Saiyan God, and Broly's other form is called Super God? Shouldn't it be the other way around? And Broly's been embarrassed by this, but he says he wasn't the one who named Super Saiyan God. Don't blame him. Cell chuckles. Very well then. Cell still doesn't transform, fighting Broly with his current power. Cell then vanishes from Broly's sight, and Broly senses someone coming to attack him. He barely dodges it, and it looks like Cell, but it isn't Cell. It's a smaller blue Cell. And then there's another one. And
Cell
then
Jr. is nasty.
He has no clue what this is. And Cell says this is one of the new things that he thought of, introducing him to those Cell Juniors that he just spawned, with Cell spawning even more. Broly fends off all the Cell Juniors, and despite their size, they're incredibly powerful, and Cell attacks alongside them, of course fighting with perfect harmony. Cell says no matter how strong Broly is, he won't be able to overcome their sheer numbers, unless he fully powers up. Broly warns Cell one last time, but Cell tells him to stop it already, just show him that power. Cell says if anything, he would think that Broly would want to kill him. He's surprised that he's so hesitant about it, but maybe it's because Broly actually sees the new side of Cell. He's not a good guy by any means, but he's more neutral than he was before, which is interesting. And Broly has seen how people have changed, especially through Goku, and what he's heard about Cell from Gohan. So that's kind of the reason for it. He has no reason to just slaughter Cell right here and now, but Cell says to stop worrying about that. Even if he wanted to, he probably couldn't. Well, he asked for it. Broly powers up once more, going into that same super god form. Little side note, the reason I'm calling it that is just because, it pretty much conveys what it is. Calling it something with full power in it, like super full power Saiyan God, that's kind of a mouthful. And it isn't Super Saiyan Blue, it's something completely different. The name's kind of a reference to that God Broly form, which I actually did include in another video too. You can check that out here. And I wanted to go a different route for this one and not include that exact form. This one is kind of like that, but also kind of different. Just so I could have more fun with the design here. Anyways, with Broly now in this form, he completely overpowers Cell. The battle is so fast that even Goku and Vegeta are having a tough time keeping up. They even transform just to heighten their senses just to see this more. And Cell decides to finally showcase his true power. He actually saw this from Frieza, and he thought, why not try to use it for himself? He already is perfect, but why not make himself stronger than perfect? A brilliant golden light surrounds him, with Cell's power surging, as he then goes into his new form, Golden Cell. He said he debated whether or not to actually change himself. As a perfect being, he shouldn't really need to change how he looks. But it does convey his new increase in power, so he thought it's kind of necessary. Frieza did it after all, so he'll do the same thing. It's kind of like their Super Saiyan form in a way. And Broly smiles. This is more like it. The power that Cell is hiding. It truly is pretty amazing. This will make for a very fun battle. The two rush in toward each other, with Cell turning into a golden beam of light and Broly turning into a teal beam of light. Every time they clash, there's an explosive shockwave. They have to really try hard to control themselves because if they have too much power surging, it could just break everything. But thankfully Cell knows how to control his power, and Broly definitely does too by now. Goku, Vegeta, Beerus, and Whis watch as sparks of light appear out of nowhere. The two Saiyans have completely lost sight of Broly and Cell. They just see the sparks of where they collide, with bursts of energy launching out from those collisions. Cell tells Broly this is why he's wanted to fight him for so long. He has some of Broly's power after all, and he was built just to be the perfect warrior. Against someone as strong as Broly, someone with this power, it's great for both of them. It lets Cell test himself to the fullest extent, and Broly gets to do the same thing. With someone at his strength, he won't be able to fight anyone, but Cell, they could fight together. Imagine that, an eternity of them battling as rivals. They'll endlessly grow stronger, enjoying the thrill of battle like this. And Cell knows that Broly wants to do something like that too. He's a Saiyan after all. He may not have Broly in his DNA, being from the future and all. He only has some knowledge of Broly's power from that encounter that they had in the Cell saga. But he knows how Broly is. He knows how Saiyans are. He's part Saiyan. And briefly, Broly considers the idea. And he tells Cell, it does sound intriguing, but Cell's gonna have to be stronger than this. Cell looks shocked at first, but then smiles. Then so be it. Let's finish this battle. Broly's aura flares up once more, with the power of that alone knocking Cell back. He connects a single punch, and that completely knocks Cell unconscious. Even Beerus is surprised. Broly had that kind of power in reserve? He wasn't already fighting at his full strength? Is that really his competition now? Can he even compete with that? Broly floats back to the rest of them, carrying Cell over his shoulder.
Don't
and
be
Vegeta's
fooled by
actually kind of
Beerus. He be
surprised that Broly
bullshit.
doesn't even try to kill him. Broly could tell that he's different than before, and he does want to fight him again. They all land back on Beerus' planet, and Goku turns to Broly. He's actually not too surprised to see this. If Broly did just want to destroy Cell right now, he'd have every right to do so. But Goku can kind of see his influence rubbing off on Broly. Not just the fact that Broly wants to fight him again, that's just inherent to his Saiyan nature, but also him seeing the potential changes that people could have. Now, Goku doesn't ever expect Cell to turn good or anything, but it does remind him of when he encountered Broly before. Broly was a brutish monster, with amazing strength. It seemed completely uncontrollable. But Goku became rivals with him, became friends with him. He became Broly's teacher. And in a way, maybe Broly has the same thing in mind with Cell. And Broly's kinda happy to think about it like this. Even better, Cell's not the only one that he could face. He has so many great rivals around him. Goku, his first rival and his first teacher, and one of his first friends. And as an extension of that, there's Piccolo, who he grew close with during his journey. And then Gohan too, someone who's similar to that. Especially after seeing their brief performance in the Tournament Power, and how they performed against Cell, they still are his rivals. They're still incredibly powerful. And he obviously still has that same close bond with them that he always has had. And even Vegeta, the person that Paragus actually trained him to kill, the person that he almost did kill, the person that revolted against him so much. Even they're allies now. Broly's life has changed so drastically. And yeah, he lost a bunch of years on Vampa, but it doesn't really matter. The experiences he's had on Earth, the bonds he's made with his friends there, they've more than made up for it. No matter how much time he lost by being trapped on Vampa, his history on Earth is worth lifetimes. And even when he grows old, he thinks of Paragus, how he's been changed by Earth, and how he could still even have a good life ahead of him. He looks down at the unconscious Cell. Even though Cell is kinda still rotten, he's not the same self that he was before. And for all Broly knows, this could be his next rival, his next friend, a new person to share these amazing experiences with, especially the thrill of fight. And with that, we end here. What did you guys think about this part in the series as a whole? Originally I had it written out that I was going to include the Moro and Granola arcs, but they were too short to actually include. As a brief synopsis, I had Piccolo fight Moro, sealing him because it was so effective against Zamasu. And Android 16 helped him because his energy couldn't be stolen. And as for Granola, he wouldn't really be involved because the Frieza Force is already gone. I didn't have too much time to include in this part, and I didn't really want to extend it to another one, but...
Alright. Yeah, shout out to Shaolin Shan, man. This was a great story. I ain't gonna lie, I fuck with it. I do like the Broly form. You could have called it Super Saiyan Till or something, man. You know, whatever. You know, it's your story, whatever. But make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Check out the last chapter right here. And what new story you want me to watch by Shaolin Shan or anybody else you want me to watch. And I'll catch y'all next time. And peace.